My guest today is Mitch McDermott. Let me find this. Mitch is a purpose-driven executive and founding partner of Talent Ascension Group, an executive search firm redefining how talent meets opportunity. Mitch brings a dynamic blend of entrepreneurial spirit, global perspective, and a deep commitment to meaningful impact across the talent acquisition landscape. With over a decade of experience, Mitch has built a career centered around unlocking potential, both in individuals and in the organizations they serve. Thanks so much for joining me today, Mitch.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, we are doing three tips. And my first question is this: how do companies hire and attract top talent in today's market?
Yeah, that's a question I think a lot of business owners are asking themselves, especially nowadays. I think the best way in today's world to attract and retain, right? There's two different pieces. I think the attract piece is positioning yourself as an employer choice, especially smaller businesses competing with larger ones, being able to really share and sell their story. I think when companies interview, they tend to make it about their needs, about filling the role, and in some ways, hiring from fear because you're afraid that the wrong hire is going to cost you a lot of time and money.
Yeah.
uh, Interviewing and making it equally about the candidate is a great way to attract top talent. Understand what they're looking for and if you can satisfy their needs too. And if you can, it's going to allow you to be more competitive in comparison to companies who might be able to pay more, but don't offer the kind of culture or growth opportunities that you might. And from a retained standpoint, I think it comes down to understanding what your people truly want. Um, what I've seen since COVID is the loss of synergy between people and organizations, right? It used to be a
Yeah.
mutually beneficial relationship.
Uh,
People started, putting a barrier to protect themselves from companies. Now companies are doing the same. The power is shifting. And
yeah.
I think understanding what your people want on an individual level is very important. I think personalization is going to become the future, especially as AI starts to take over some of the management reporting duties. Having those people skills to get to know your people on a deeper level, creating that more human to human relationship. I think top talent really wants that, right? They're driven by impact, they're driven by growth potential. So making sure that you're creating those opportunities to attract it and more importantly, keep those people happy and understanding what their true motivators are.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay. So, what should these leaders be looking for when they're interviewing so they can be sure they're getting the right people?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think what I always recommend is shifting the interview away from the resume and getting to know the person. I see a lot of companies that we help miss out on good people because they look at a resume and say, "Oh, I'm not sure." Fortunately, they hire us, so we've already done a couple interviews, so we can
Yeah.
push back and say, "Hey, here's what we saw. You should speak with them." It's insane the amount of times the candidate who gets the job out of a slate of five that we put forward is the one that they said no to first, that they wouldn't even speak with because of a piece of paper.
That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, and,
Yeah.
and I would say in the last quarter, probably three or four placements where someone the CEO said, no thanks, and ultimately was the right person. So I think hiring for the person, remembering that no matter how good or bad the resume is, there's a person behind there, and the skills of each person are going to be likely more impactful than just the experience alone. They got to have the ability to do the job, and if
Sure.
limited resources to train, right, they have to have a certain level of experience, and that
Yeah.
differs depending on the need. But it's really the person that dictates success. I mean, I think every leader out there could talk about the one hire they almost didn't make that didn't check any of the boxes but became a game changer because of
Yeah.
who they were inside,
Yeah.
the drive, the passion, the tenacity. So I think interviewing for those skills, especially with AI too now, things are going to be a lot easier for people to do and learn. So hire for the things that you can't necessarily train and develop for.
Yeah, I love that. That is exactly right because there's, work ethic and cultural fit and things like that, but
Yeah.
can't train it. It's got to be there first, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Last question.
Okay.
What are the most common pitfalls you see companies make when they're hiring?
Assumptions. And it kind of ties back to the resume.
Yeah.
When we can't answer a question, we tell ourselves a story. I see it all the time. Even in interviews, I've saved offers because a client misinterpreted something. And again, we typically spend more time with the candidate than our client does when they hire that person. And I remember I've dove in and said, hey, we should have a 30-minute phone call to talk through this because what you're hearing is a very different story than what we're hearing. And oftentimes they pick up one thing, they make an assumption, um, and they might miss out on hiring ultimately the right person. And there's a specific example of a client we did this with, and the person's been there almost 3 years. Obviously, they've done well. They
Yeah.
almost didn't hire that person for business critical key role because of an assumption around remote work. It's a 5 day a week in office job. The candidate said at the last interview, like, obviously I'm remote now. Like it'd be nice to have some flexibility, but I'm totally good. I'm good to come in I want to work for the right company. What they heard was she's not committed to coming in 5 days a week.
Right.
So it's interesting, right? You pick up on these things. And again, we often hire from fear because we've had unsuccessful hires. Uh,
Yeah.
but hiring from a place of abundance is interesting when you change that lens and you know that you are going to attract the right person for the role, and it's understanding if that person is versus the opposite of, how can this hire burn you later?
Yeah.
It's interesting, but assumptions, I've seen that again, every step, interview process, offer stage, and especially when it comes to the initial vetting of resumes, just looking at something and going, oh, they're job jumpy. Well, actually, this company got acquired. That's the same company she's been at for 5 years. That 1 year jump was them getting acquired and changing their name, or this was a contract role, or there was a COVID layoff.
Yeah.
Things like that, everyone has a unique story.
Yeah.
And I believe as an interviewer, it's our job to understand the story of the people we want to eventually bring in.
Yeah, boy, it just feels like there's some things that we should wait to have the conversation to find out, what's going on there. Because sometimes I hear it from the employee side where they say, okay, but I haven't been at any of one of these companies for very long for reasons that were not my
Yeah.
fault, right? It's just what happened in the industry or whatever, but it sort of puts a cloud on top of them.
Yeah, I see it all the time. And that's why I get curious because sometimes they confirm that, okay, maybe they are someone who changes jobs every year, or maybe they're the common denominator. More often than not, there's a story that adds up and makes sense.
Yeah,
And they just need a company to believe in them and take a chance at, and also sometimes picking a little bit better of maybe more stable industries or, doing more due diligence on the company's vision. Are we going to sell and then, have a big layoff in 12 months? Things like that.
yeah,
So there is learning, I think, through that experience as well. But I'm with you. I think, more often than not, the story does make sense. You just have to be willing to ask those questions. And I think people feel uncomfortable. Like even with my recruiting team, I think they feel a little uncomfortable they're going to offend someone by digging into it. And I just show them, we're trying to serve them. If we're trying to serve them, then we need to know the information to best position them for opportunities. If you
exactly.
flip that frame,
Yeah.
it really does make it about them and understanding what the story is and how we can best position them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, I love this information. I think it is so important and so timely because, you hear people say all the time that they can't find good people, and you
Yeah.
just think, boy, I don't know, what are you looking at, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I think it's a matter of, and again, I think sometimes it's the questioning of those assumptions. Maybe
yeah,
interview the person who looks like a job hopper for 5 minutes and just see.
yeah,
Maybe it's confirmed. Maybe you'll be pleasantly surprised. But I do think people are too focused on saving time from interviewing that they make all the vetting around a digital profile that
yeah,
really tells maybe 1% of the story.
yes, yes, I think that's exactly right. Wow. Well, thank you so much for this. Will you tell
Yeah.
the listeners how they can find you, please?
Absolutely. Yeah. Find me on LinkedIn, Mitch McDermott. I post a lot of these ideas on there. So I try to put out value to people that we can help.
Excellent. Thank you. And listeners, thank you. You are who we're doing this for.